All right, so I thought I would do a quick video. I've been asked a really great question. It's kind of stumped me today. Also, please excuse the OTT lashes. They were glued on so well, and look, I'm just going to ride this lash wave for as long as I can. But if it looks like I'm opening my eyes, it's because I literally cannot see through them. So expect some weird animated facial expressions as I go through this. But anyway, the key question was, how does it feel to win? And I sort of said, well, first of all, it was kind of like just relieving. And then they're like, no, describe the winner's high. And I'm like, oh, okay. Hadn't really thought about that. And I guess the reason being is because in the last couple of weeks, I've done a pretty aggressive competing cycle, traveled for the first time in 2.5 years, and the first time I've ever done 3 back-to-back competitions in 8 years, which is a pretty tough gig to do. And so this last couple of weeks has just been I also got sick during that time, and there's a few other things as well. So, so it's been pretty much an emotional roller coaster, to say the least. Also quite extreme periods of dehydration and those final touches, gets to the point where you start manipulating levels of salt and things that you're having so you can try and dial in for the competition. It just gets very precise, and a lot of emotions and tensions and things like that can happen as well. So in terms of the winner's high, I guess that's a really interesting question. It's interesting because I really set out for this tour. A lot goes into a prep, and of course you visualize, potentially winning and all those sorts of things, but my measures of success and what I wanted to achieve out of this comp were actually quite different. And so whilst, getting an overall yesterday was amazing, and it was, I'm very grateful for it. It was like icing on the top, and it was a little bit bittersweet. It was also, today I've actually just felt really chilled and relaxed. Yesterday I felt really chilled and relaxed. I think because my measures of success were different. So what I mean by that is, so there's a couple of things that we set out to achieve this competition. One was just basically come in the shape of my life, come back to figure after 4 years off, but with a much set of bigger, better conditioned legs, which we delivered on, and basically a better upper back, and a few other bits and pieces as well. So everything that we set out to achieve from bringing a package, we're basically working on flow. So what we talk about flow is like shoulder, chest, tie-in. So, we've got a good base physique. There's a few things that we need to go away and work on, like that I need to go away and work on now. But in terms of, this comp, there was some certain, our focus was quite targeted on certain body parts, because you do imbalance training to get a balanced physique, right? And we're at a point now where there's quite a good foundation after 8 years of competing and focused attention to bodybuilding, that you get to do those more targeted preps in terms of what you actually want to achieve out of one. The other thing I wanted to do with competing as well is, because I hadn't been on the scene for quite some time and hadn't been able to travel, is I really wanted to get as much experience as possible in terms of how's my body going to respond to doing 3 comps, because I've never done that before. So when you're in condition, you only, you spend all this time to get up on stage, and you actually only have like a really small window to, or a very small learning opportunity to find out how you actually dial in those last bits around water loading, carb loading, fat loading, whatever it is that you get to stage so you get nice full muscles. You're already lean, but how do we actually showcase all that, what basically getting you in so you look your absolute best on the day. And then how do you do that and sustain that over 3 comps, because it's quite a stress on the body and so on. So that was one thing I really wanted to walk away. 2, I really wanted to get my physique up and compared to as many other people as possible, because it's been a long time since I've been on stage because of the whole COVID thing and so on, right? So it's been 2.5 years since I competed and 4 years since I've been in figure, and especially at a national level as well. So the other thing I wanted to do was actually go to another state where nobody knew me, bigger competition, and just see how I stacked up, and also just to experience something new, because eventually I want to go travel internationally, And, you know, so I'm going to have to get used to traveling in different climates and so on, and different competitions, and get a feel for that. And there's quite a lot of learnings that I had as well in terms of, you know, how quickly you can forget posing, or just the nerves and those final bits of touches that come up to stage, and the prep leading into a comp. It's also one thing that I really learned as well was around, well, when you experience this setback or something really doesn't go very well at all, how do you turn that around and change it for the next comp? And not so much from a physique point of view, but from a mental resilience, a confidence, and a mindset point of view, right? So that piece was very interesting. So my wins, actually, like, I rocked up to the comp yesterday feeling super chilled. It was a fantastic day. I was just going to have fun. It was my last day. So in terms of competing in front of a home crowd, in a competition that I love, you know, I felt right at home with the people backstage, the whole the federation, you know, everything was just amazing. But I was quite relaxed because I was ready. I was like, well, you know, whatever it is, and then at the end of this, I get a reward of catching up with some people who, you know, I love in front of a home crowd. I get to have fun today, and, you know, I've come in and everything that I can do has been done now. There's nothing else I could do except for relax and enjoy the day. So, and then I had the experience of being up with some experienced competitors who were actually amazing on so many levels. So that was great. So it was just a really fun day. And so I already felt like a winner. So when you say winner's high, it's like, well, that wasn't necessarily like the way that I was measuring my success, you know, because I can't control whether or not the judges were going to award the placing. And yesterday, to be honest, the competition was so tight. There was 1 point in it, and I was fortunate enough that, you know, for once it went my way. But bodybuilding is a sport where you're going to lose much more often than you actually win. So that's something that you have to take in consideration. And at the end of the day, like, a trophy doesn't tell you, like, another trophy on your shelf isn't going to fill anything that you're trying to fill in terms of self-worth or validation. You know, so it's really just topping, because you need to be doing it for your own reasons, and you need to enjoy it, and you need to have things that you want to have your own measures of success for, and actually, you know, and actually set out to achieve those things and then get the learnings from it. So for me, it was around doing 3 back-to-back competitions. I did that. It actually wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. I mean, there was definitely some tough and trying moments for sure. But yeah, my body actually held up a lot better than I expected. And to come in the best condition yet by the time I did the 3rd competition in itself was amazing. So we knew that. And I'd always suspected that my legs were always going to get the best after 3 weeks, because I've always had that post-competition a week later, I look absolutely amazing when I'm kind of relaxed. And that actually happened. So I was super stoked. Yeah, sometimes things just fall into place and it just feels seamless and it just feels right. So without sounding arrogant, you know, I felt really relaxed on stage. In my mind, I'd set out to achieve, I had done everything that I set out to achieve, and then everything else was just a bonus. And that's exactly how it played out. I had a fantastic day. The best part was actually seeing probably Rochelle and Stacey act like proud dance mums at the end of it. You know, Stacey has been there for just about all of my comps. Rochelle has been an absolute superstar, amazing, wonderful person. Yeah, seeing Danny proud was great, seeing the coach proud, and seeing some other people who are, you know, in and out of that bodybuilding family, who are, you know, will, you know, give you credit where credit's due, and give you encouragement and support where you need it. Was great. So, yeah, really happy with this season. You know, I'm still pretty pleased as well that I held my own in Brisbane. That was a huge achievement, because the girls over there have been basically competing for years. They haven't really stopped because they've still had the competitions and the numbers over East in the last couple of years, whereas the West hasn't necessarily. There were fierce competitors, like everybody was conditioned, they were huge. And, you know, I got 3rd in novice, which was amazing and well placed, and I got 1st call out in open, which is the best I've ever done. And so realistically, you know, I brought the best physique I have to date. There's certainly a lot of areas that I need to improve on. Like, we know for starters that that my glutes, that I should probably be very careful around saying I worked my ass off, because I literally kind of worked my glutes off. They got a bit depleted, weren't as full, and we need to get them more wedged, which only comes from muscle development, so that's going to be a focus area. There's still a few things in terms of really tightening up that midsection. I had great abs for most of this season, and then that little bit of cortisol and stress and extra depletion that don't quite hold up. So again, that just comes from having extra muscle mass and having those really chunky abs. So we'll build that tight section in, really practicing the vacuums when I have that opportunity. Arms, we didn't touch this prep. Shoulders, we didn't touch this prep. So it's probably a bit more of a focus on those areas just to bring them up, and a bit more upper body development as well. And yeah, just loved it. Met some really great people, had a lot of fun. Was triggered by a few situations, which I'll go into at some other point as well. But overall, pretty successful season, pretty happy. Yeah, thanks for the question, thanks for your support, and hope to be speaking to you soon. Cheers.